welcome to another edition of Infield Fly, talking baseball with you as we'll look back at the last week in Major League Baseball and see what's ahead this week in Major League Baseball. I'm Rob Fisher, St. Louis Cardinals fan. Keith Murphy is here. He's a Chicago Cubs fan. And Lang Whitaker, Atlanta Braves fan. Gentlemen, how are you? Everything going all right?
Come see, come saw.
Yes. Lang,
I'm good. We're just winning series.
Just keep winning series. That's all it is. Yeah.
Try to stay healthy.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. We'll get to our teams and we'll look at the rest of Major League Baseball throughout the program. Couple of things. I don't know if you knew that I learned this week. First of all, Marcell Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves, since the start of August 1st, he is first in home runs, RBIs, and OPS.
Wow.
Marcell Ozuna.
The big bear as he is known.
Big Bear is just dominating since August 1st. That's amazing. I mean, this is a guy that last year at the beginning of the season, we didn't know what the heck was going to happen with Marcell Ozuna.
That's what makes it more amazing. It's like the first month and a half last year, all the Braves fans were ready to get rid of this guy. Like, he was terrible.
Right.
Terrible. And then all of a sudden, he's been a completely different player since then, and he's been our best offensive player this year on a team full of really good offensive players.
It's been pretty incredible what his run has been. He leads Major League Baseball with 9 home runs and 27 RBIs at this point as well. Also learned this week. Did you know it was International High Five Day? It was International High Five Day. Dusty Baker invented the high five.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you guys were aware of that?
I'm aware of that. Yeah. I heard the folklore around that. Yeah.
Apparently, Dusty Baker and Glenn Burke of the Dodgers on October 2nd, 1977, last day of the regular season, Baker hit a home run off of J.R. Richard. Remember J.R. Richard? Baker's 30th home run made the Dodgers the first team in history to have 4 hitters with at least 30 home runs in a single season. It was an amazing moment, and Burke was waiting on desk, put his hand up over his head to greet his friend at the plate. Baker didn't know what to do, smacked it, and afterwards Baker said his hand was in the air and he was arching way back, so I reached up and hit his hand. It seemed like the thing to do. And there you go. The high five was invented. Now, wow. Looking at the origin of the high five, the funniest thing about the high five is that Magic Johnson says he invented the high five at Michigan State. Of course, Magic Johnson invented the high five at Michigan State.
I believe him too. That's the funny part.
It might just be Magic's Twitter account, that thing's like an AI Twitter account. Maybe the Twitter account just took credit for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it does seem funny that Glenn Burke put his hand over his head to greet his teammate. Like who does that? Why?
Right. Like what? It's very abnormal. Plus, Dusty getting 30 home runs.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
There's a lot to tackle in that story.
You buried the lead, Fish. That's crazy to me. Come on.
Did everybody do low fives before that? And
I guess they did
fives. They did this.
Yeah.
Type of five. They did that.
So yeah, low fives, low tens. But now the high five invented by Dusty Baker, not Magic Johnson. That's what I'm going with. I'm going with it was Dusty Baker, not Magic Johnson. The top stories in baseball this week. Passing of Whitey Herzog, Hall of Fame manager who guided the St. Louis Cardinals to 3 pennants and a World Series title in 1982 and perfected an intricate nail-biting strategy known as Whitey Ball. Died at the age of 92.
What is Whitey Ball? I don't know.
I got to hear this one, Fish.
What's Whitey Ball?
Yeah.
Having a bunch of fast guys who get on base, steal second, and knock them over with a sacrifice, and then knock them in.
Small ball.
Small ball. Yeah, basically. It was Whitey Ball. Just a bunch of fast dudes who could hit the ball in the gaps and didn't have any power and just ran around the bases like jackrabbits.
I think he's one of the last of the OG managers, right? Wouldn't you say that bunch that came to prominence in the late 70s and 80s?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of
Bobby Cox is kind of like that too.
Yeah, Cox is like
Bobby
that.
Cox. Yeah, you could throw him in there because Roger Craig passed away and Dick Hauser.
They're leaving us at a fast clip.
Yeah, Whitey was he was the best. I'm excited. I have a picture of me and Whitey from when I was 12 years old.
Oh wow!
I was outside the ballpark waiting by the team cars, by the players' cars. And Whitey came out and he signed a ball for me, and I got a picture with Whitey. And then 4 years ago at the PGA Championship at Bellerive in St. Louis, I was covering that event, and Whitey was there and got my picture taken with him then as well. So I have up in my room, I got the pictures of from when I was 12 and from when I was 47 with me and Whitey, and it was a pretty cool moment.
No, that's really cool, man.
And he was awesome to talk baseball with, and just a legend, and the manager that I grew up with. So he's my manager. And
would you rather have Ali Marmol managing the Cardinals now, or a 90-whatever-year-old Whitey Herzog?
Whitey. Yeah. It was funny. Cardinals fans forever. I mean, years after Whitey was gone, every time there was a new manager, whether it was when La Russa was named manager or when La Russa was done, people still wanted to bring back Whitey. And it was like, he's 85 years old. We can't bring back Whitey. But St. Louis fans had an affection for Whitey Herzog, certainly. And his numbers retired in St. Louis, and he was my manager growing up. So
what's his wins, Fish? How many wins did he end up having?
Let me see.
And I know he was pretty up there. Because when I remember when he retired, everybody was like, "Wow, like he's going to be Hall of Fame easy."
Let's see, Whitey Herzog. Number of wins were. Oh, for crying out loud!
I can't find it either. Here we go. As a manager,
1,281.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a crazy number.
He managed the Rangers, Angels, Royals, and Cardinals.
He also has 1,125 losses. So he has his career record is like 530. He's like just over 500.
But that's a lot. That's a lot of games, though. So
well, it's also like
put it in perspective.
At the beginning of his career, he managed a bunch of bad Royals teams. It looks like.
So it's a Joe Torre thing. You're telling me.
I guess, yeah.
Because Torre was like that a little bit too.
Well,
I mean, Torre's not
because Joe Torre was a bad manager.
Wow.
He did pretty good.
Joe Torre gets a lot of credit for basically having good players.
He was a good manager on the Braves when I was a kid. Like the Braves weren't very good, and he was like we had Dale Murphy, and that was about it. Bob Horner, Brett Butler, Rick Camp, and we won a division in there.
He was a good manager of people, not a good manager of baseball.
Interesting.
Joe Torre, when he was with the Cardinals, he was terrible. Also, big news this week: John Sterling retired from broadcasting, effective immediately. 85 years old, was with the Yankees for 36 years. He was in Atlanta for a while. Do you remember him growing up?
I do. He was I remember he was like a fill-in Braves announcer, but he was the Hawks play-by-play guy for several years. And his big signature call was whenever Dominique Wilkins made like an awesome play, he would yell out, "Dominique is magnifique."
That's Sterling.
And the other one I remember was whenever Randy Whitman was the shooting guard. Whenever Whitman would hit a shot, he would call it the Whitman sampler, which is pretty good. But
nice.
But then he got known when he was the Yankees announcer all those years when I lived in New York, and he was known for his calls and his he would come up with like phrases for different guys, and it was sort of corny, but like people liked it. And the last whatever decade, him and Susan Waldman were doing the radio games, and everybody kind of referred to them as the grandparents doing the games. Like they were like the honorary grandparents of the Yankees fan base. But yeah, I was kind of surprised. It was surprising for him to retire a couple of weeks into the season.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. I thought they would at least he would like stay on broadcasting for the rest of the season. So that was kind of shocking.
What was more surprising, John Sterling stepping away as a broadcaster of the Yankees, or that they had a ceremony for him a couple of days later and on the field, and their going away gift, their gift for him was a big screen TV?
Yeah. What do you give him? Like a giant radio? Like I don't think.
I mean, you got to get him something that symbolizes something, like a golden microphone.
Give him a truck. A TV.
He does live in the city.
Did they tell the kid down the hall, "Hey, run to Best Buy, get a TV for John Sterling"?
They said that he always would do these interviews where he lived in New Jersey, like right across the George Washington Bridge
Right.
from the Bronx. So it was like easy for him to go back and forth. And he always talked about, he had a beautiful view of the river and the city and all this. So like, maybe he just wants to sit around and I don't know what you give somebody who's been there that long,
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
watch, like, what do you, like, what do you,
Lane, do you remember that one Braves game that everybody keeps talking about? I think he was announced it in when it went like the 18 innings or something like that.
yeah,
18
it
innings.
was a 4th of July game.
Yeah, yeah. Like I saw a video of it. It looked nuts, man.
It was 4th of July in like 1984 or something like that. And a friend of mine was at the game and stayed for the game, but the game went 18 innings. And at one point, it was like in the bottom of the 14th or something. And the Braves were down a run or something. And Rick Camp had to pinch hit, who's one of our starting pitchers, terrible. He hit a home run to tie the game up and kept it going until the bottom. But the funniest thing about it was on the 4th of July, and they had to promise they were going to do fireworks after the game. And then the game ended at like 3:30 or 4 in the morning, and they shot the fireworks off. And all these people thought Atlanta was being bombed. And all these people called the cops, and we were like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then I guess the other thing is the Angel Hernandez thing is just it continues to blow up. Last week he struck out Wyatt Langford on 3 pitches that were all out of the zone, called them all strikes. And you sent me a thing where Jeff Passan was talking with I guess it was Rich Eisen about Angel Hernandez and why he's not fired. And it's just,
what's the reason they gave, Fish? Because seriously, I want to know.
He kind of talked around it the whole time.
Yeah.
And I think he talks around it the whole time because let's remember, Angel Hernandez is a guy who sued Major League Baseball for racial discrimination.
And lost.
And
still has his job. Yeah. He sued for discrimination because he said that's why he wasn't getting postseason, I think, assignments.
Yeah.
And the Major League Baseball was like, no, it's because you're not good. And then he still kept his job. I've told you guys a lot. Like, I'm here for the robot umps, right? And and we've seen it a lot this season, and guys like Langford or whoever got all those 3 straight pitches that weren't in the strike zone called strikes, and there's no consistency. And my son, actually, who is 11 years old, might have solved all this the other night. We were watching the game, and my son goes, it was the Braves game. There was a bunch of calls right on the edges. They were either not calling them or calling them, whatever. My son was like, the umpires wear those masks. Why don't they put a VR thing in the mask that shows the strike zone and shows where the pitch comes in? The way we see it on TV, they can see it in the mask.
Wow.
And then they know, if it's close, if it's on the edge, they can make a judgment call, but at least they know exactly where the pitch is on that strike zone.
Right.
And I was like, that's a great idea. Like, I don't know why we don't do that. We have little devices in the hats that the catcher pushes a button and tells the pitcher what to throw. Like, why can't we just rig up that VR thing in the helmet?
It seems like there's an easy solution, and I'm with you. I'm starting to be a fan of robot umps.
So have you guys seen what they're doing in the minor leagues this year?
Yeah.
Where it's like tennis, right? Like you get, it takes 20 seconds. You get as many challenges as you want until you get 3 wrong. But it's quick, it's fast, and it seems like it's working. So I'm hoping that's coming up next season to the majors.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Batter, if he doesn't like the pitch, they hit their head and they review it, and it's shown up on the board, and boom, we move on to the next pitch. And it doesn't seem like it takes a lot of time.
But wouldn't you say that kind of undermines the umpire?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
But then it's going to cause a lot of. I mean, I'm for it, but I'm telling you what the fallout's going to be. They're going to get fired. People are going to get fired if it keeps piling up.
Okay.
You're not doing your job, bro. Like, what's going on?
Maybe we'll find people who can do the job then to replace them.
I mean, when the whole national discussion is around Hernandez, that's a problem. That's a problem for baseball. Like,
yes.
it's one thing for us, like, baseball fanatics to be like, crapping on them, talking about them. But, when that's on like morning TV and then they're saying, this is egregious.
I'm assuming Fish has this somewhere in the show, but this morning it was all about Hunter Windelstad on SportsCenter. I was in the gym here at this hotel this morning, and that was one of the lead like items this morning on SportsCenter. There was a whole segment about that.
Yeah, we'll get to that coming up in a moment when we look around the league and get to the New York Yankees. But first, let's check out the clubhouse of our teams. The Atlanta Braves, a 6-1 week for the Braves, now 15-6, and second best record in Major League Baseball. Swept 3 games at Houston, won 2 of 3 against Texas, and then beat Miami last night 3-0. Some of the highlights: Marcell Ozuna up to his 9th home run of the season, had a 17-game hit streak that was snapped. Travis d'Arnaud had a 3 home run game with 6 RBIs against Texas, and now he's hit number 4 and number 5 as well along the way. And Bryce Elder, makes his debut with 6 2/3 scoreless. That was good to see, considering they gotta get some pitching. Fried had a better performance his last time out. Vines was okay. Morton was better his last time out as well.
What they've been doing actually is juggling these pitchers where, like, Ronaldo Lopez has been the best pitcher for the Braves this season.
Yeah.
You know, he was a reliever the last couple of years for the White Sox, and they made him into a starter. We've talked about like when they have to stretch guys out and how they do that, and so the Braves said they kind of thought they were going to try to just kind of take it game by game and try to pitch him regular in the rotation. He has the lowest ERA in the majors among people with like qualified innings or 3 starts, I think. But what they've done is that guy Vines started a couple games. Elder started yesterday. Didn't really replace anyone. They just threw him in there as an extra starter. So now Lopez is pitching, I think, tonight or tomorrow night on 7 days rest. And they've been able to give Chris Sale like 6 days, 5 days in between starts. So guys are getting like, I think Fried was supposed to start on 4 days rest last night, and they pushed him. And they just said, "Well, bring up Elder, let him start a game." So they're kind of managing this in a very smart way, I think, where all these pitchers, they're sort of fragile as it is, giving them at least 5 days between starts, and in some cases up 6-7 days, and it seems like it's working pretty well so far.
You need to bring that over to the Cubs for Kyle Hendricks, okay? That's a whole other story.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's been cool to watch them do that. And like the pitching doesn't have to be awesome. Like the hitting is so good that as long as the pitching's like just keeps you in the games and don't, you avoid any like disasters, then the hitting usually, like there's always 1 inning every game where they kind of break out and have 4 or 5 runs. And it's just kind of waiting for that to happen every game.
Yeah. Ozzie Albies placed on the 10-day injured list. He's got a fractured right big toe, but then you just throw Michael Harris up in that spot, and that's worked out just fine.
I think Albies is coming back soon. They said he was wearing cleats, spikes in the clubhouse over the weekend and walking around.
How's that even possible? What is a robot?
It must have been it must have been like a tiny fracture because when it happened, he got hit by a pitch on the toe. My son also had a good point. He's like, why don't those guys wear shoes that are like reinforced on the toe? And I was like, I don't know. That's a great question.
Like the pitchers do.
Yeah, but Albies got hit on the toe, and he played. It was in the 2nd inning. He played the whole game, and then after the game, they found out the toe had a fracture. So it must be like they didn't really do a lot of detail, but it must be just like a hairline, And they only put him on the 10-day disabled list, so it must have been a thing where they figured, all right, it's barely nothing, and he'll be able to come back. So
yeah.
Also, just for what it's worth, Acuna is still like he hasn't had as many home runs this year, but he's hitting for average and stealing a ton of bases. And his thing now this year is whenever he steals the base, he looks to the dugout and does the John Cena. So,
I saw him gritty the other night after his home run, though.
Yeah, he hit the gritty. Matt Diaz hit the gritty too the other day in the outfield. So.
In Spencer Strider, no Tommy John surgery. Apparently, he has a tear that has an internal brace procedure, whatever that is, giving him a better chance to recover for the start of next season.
Yeah, he doesn't have like the torn ligament. Apparently, he had some sort of like bone spur that's from when he had the other Tommy John surgery like 5 years ago, and apparently there's been some little thing in there the whole time that just got worse and worse, and finally this spring, he said in spring training he was a little sore but didn't think much of it, and then whatever it was became enough of an issue where they don't have to do the Tommy John surgery again. They have this other surgery they do, and he should be back by the start of next year.
Yeah, well, that's good news for the Braves for sure. The Cubbies 13-9, won 2 of 3 at Arizona, and then split 4 with Miami. That was a little disappointing.
Very disappointing. I thought we should at least gotten 3 at the very least. Fish, our bullpen, man. It's you just never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Like it's just too many moments where we got the lead, and it's one thing to give up singles. I don't mind people giving up singles. Don't give up a home run and lose a game. And when Albert Alize, it was 2 outs, I believe, and he just gave him a nice little meatball. Dude just knocked it out, and I think Cubs fans are panicking a little bit too much. I think they got to be positive because our offense is clicking. I believe in Console. I believe in our starters. Kyle Hendricks is another story. I think they need to figure out what they can do with him in terms of maybe moving him somewhere in
his ERA is 12.71.
Well, I mean, I try not to look at his ERA because my eyes bleed when I see it. But I just think that he just needs to either go into the bullpen, see if he can eat up some innings. He does not need to be a starting pitcher on that team right now. That's what I'm getting at.
Got a good outing from Ben Brown.
I love
whoever
that kid.
He is.
He's a young kid. They finding these young kids to kind of like salvage everything and try to figure out what we can do until we get our horse back, our best pitcher back. And Cubs are gritty, man. They're a gritty bunch, but we got to do something about this bullpen because you just can't come into a situation where every time you get into the ninth inning and you're wondering to yourself, is this going to be the game that we blow it? Because that's what Cubs have been like the rest of the game, piling up runs, eating up runs, 5-2 leads, 4-2 leads. The next thing you know, like the eighth and the ninth inning just starts imploding.
When's Steele coming back?
That's been like what it was like to have a Kenley Jansen as your closer.
Oh yeah, guys. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys got it better though, because at least with us.
But back there was a little run there where you're
there's a little run, but see, we got a Russian roulette of pitches where we're like who's this guy? Is this guy going to bungle his sport? But yeah, still, I don't know, Fish. I don't know. I don't know. They're talking about a few months. Some saying a few weeks. I mean, he couldn't come back soon enough because I think he's going to just stabilize everything. He's going to bring everybody down to where they're supposed to be in the pitching rotation. Yeah. But we got to go out and get a closer. I'm sorry. I know the thought of closing is dead. Like there's not one guy anymore. It's not like the old school way of closing. But we got to get somebody that's just dependable that you can bring in the ninth inning and just shut things down. We have to. It's important. Yeah.
Cardinals, meanwhile, are 10-13. They won 2 of 3 at Oakland. Sonny Gray, another 6 scoreless innings. Steven Matz had a 5 innings pitch, gave up 5 earned runs. That wasn't good. But Lance Lynn pitched well. And then they got swept in 3 games by the Milwaukee Brewers, which was not good. Kyle Gibson, 6 innings pitch and earned run, but didn't get a decision. Miles Michaelis was rocked. Sonny Gray was good again, only gave up 2 runs, but they lost 2-1 in that game. And then they did win last night with a walk-off against Arizona, 5-3. Goldschmidt and Nolan Gorman both go yard. Gorman, the walk-off bomb. Cardinals had gone 8 straight games without homering until last night when they got 2. This is one of the biggest problems of the Cardinals right now. Paul Goldschmidt has 2 extra base hits this season.
It's not going to get it done.
He homered on opening day and he homered last night. That's it. That's the only extra base hits he's got this season. He's hitting $170.
You think he's trying you think he's trying too hard? You think he's trying to knock it out every time?
I think he's slumping. I just think.
Is he old? Is he over the hill now?
Well, we'll see. But I think it goes to what Aaron Judge was talking about this week. Out of 500 at bats, you're going to have a slump at some point of the season. It's just more defined when you do it early in the season because everybody's looking at your numbers. Like Ozuna,
yeah.
So I think that's the problem with Gold. I'm not that concerned with him because he's still swinging the bat okay, and he's starting to hit the ball a little bit harder, just hitting it at people. It's the power that just concerns me. He's not driving the ball and driving it out of the park. He's hitting a lot of fly ball outs. So we'll see what the season holds, but Didn't have a great year last year and is off to a really rough start this year. Now, this is a crazy stat. The Cardinals have failed to win the final game of a series this year. They're 0-7 in the last game of a series. The offense has scored 3 or fewer runs in 12 of the last 15 games and 15 times in the first 23. It's the most by an NL team, second most to the White Sox. How depressing is that?
Yeah, when you're in the same conversation as the White Sox right now, it's not good.
Yeah, so the offense is a disaster. Goldschmidt's been awful. Nolan Gorman's been awful. He hits the walk-off last night. Jordan Walker's been awful. Victor Scott was finally sent back down to AAA.
Is that the fast guy?
That's the fast guy, yeah. It sucked. He just couldn't get on base. All I wanted to do was see him run. I just wanted to see him run, and he can't get on base.
We'll be able to when the Redbirds get back in town. We'll go see him.
Yeah, we'll go see him and watch him run around the bases. But, yeah, the offense has just been brutal. The pitching's been okay. They just haven't scored any runs, and then that needs to be a lot better. But they went from 3 games out of first place going into that Milwaukee series and the whole division being tight to getting swept and being 6 games out. And all of a sudden it feels like, oh God, that feels like a lot to make up. But a good win last night and hopefully the type of win that can, get a team going. I know Chip was talking about it on the broadcast last night. This is a type of win that can get a team going. Well, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. We'll see how that works.
Good impersonation there, Fish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Elsewhere in Major League Baseball in the National League East, the Braves are at the top of the East, but here come the Philadelphia Phillies. They've won 7 straight games. They swept Colorado in 3. They swept the White Sox in 3, and then they won last night in Cincinnati 7-0. The biggest thing has been Ranger Suarez. Remember him from the postseason last year? He is on fire. He had a complete game shutout against Colorado. He had 7 scoreless last night against Cincinnati, 25 shutout innings in a row for Ranger Suarez. And then they got a dude named Spencer Turnbull who went 7 scoreless, and he's 2-0 to start the season. Phillies are getting the pitching.
They're looking good, man.
And on top of,
the Braves nemesis, the Braves nemesis.
We already beat them in the series earlier this year. But when you have Nola and Wheeler on top of those guys, like that's a pretty, daunting rotation.
Yeah. Schwarber hit his 6th home run, and Harper hit his 4th this week as well. The Mets are playing good baseball as well. They've won 12 of 17. They are 5-2 this week. They're 12-10 now in the season. They swept Pittsburgh in 3 and then won 2 of 3 at the Dodgers before losing a game at San Francisco last night. Pete Alonso hitting his 7th home run of the season. And then you have Washington at 10-11, surprisingly at 10-11.
Shockingly.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing some good baseball. They played really well against the Dodgers this week. And then you have Miami at the bottom at 6-18. And they placed Jake Berger on the 10-day injured list with a left intercostal muscle strain.
Jeez, man. I think they just be coming up with stuff.
Yeah,
I think that just be creating injury names.
No doubt. Milwaukee's in first place in the Central at 14-7. They lost 2 of 3 at San Diego. They swept 3 at the Cardinals. And then did lose at Pittsburgh last night, 4-2. Rhys Hoskins hitting his 5th home run. Jackson Chourio hitting his 4th home run of the season. They did place Christian Yelich on the 10-day injured list. He's got a low back strain. But Milwaukee hanging tough at the top of the division. And then you have Cincinnati as well at 12-10. They were swept by Seattle. Then they swept the Angels before losing to Philadelphia 7-0 last night. Frankie Montas, who was off to a great start, had to leave the game against the Angels after taking a line drive off his arm. He's dealing with a right forearm bruise, but the x-ray showed no fracture. He could miss just 1 start. So that's good news for the Reds. The Reds are getting great play by Ellie De La Cruz, but the Reds kind of seem like you thought maybe this would be a year that they'd kind of take off after what they did last year. It kind of feels like they're still in the same mode. They're still right there. They can be really good. They can be really bad. They look like a young team. Some nights just play above their heads, and some nights look like a young team and right around 500, and that's where they're at. And you wonder if that's where they're going to be for the remainder of the season. And then Pittsburgh, bad week for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was at the top of the division last week, a 1-6 week puts them at 12-11. They were swept by the Mets, swept by Boston. Then they did beat Milwaukee 4-2. The big news for Pittsburgh, though, is Paul Skeens, number 1 pick in the draft from LSU. He's dominating in the minor leagues, and they won't call him up. The team needs pitching. They're in desperate need of pitching, but general manager Ben Cherington said with Paul, we've been very intentional about how we're building his volume coming into the season. He's allowed, how about this? He's only pitched 9 1/3 innings in 3 starts.
Jeez.
They're only letting him pitch 3 innings a start. He's 21 years old. He's allowed no earned runs. He has struck out 19 batters in 9 1/3 innings.
I mean, he's only going through the lineup once. You know?
Yeah.
It probably makes it a little easier to just, you don't have to like rely on your secondary stuff. The crazy thing is that like he came out of college and he was pitching a lot.
Pitching a lot of innings, pitching a lot of pitches, yeah.
And he's gone to the pros and they've amped him down since then.
I think everybody's getting spooked over the pitching count and volume count.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Like you can see people all over the league, like, man, just fragile, just making sure that somebody doesn't break out there. So,
yeah. In the National League West, the Dodgers are on top, although they had a 2-5 week, losing 2 of 3 to Washington and 2 of 3 to the Mets. Yes. Shohei Ohtani did his 5th home run. Mookie Betts had a 5-hit game. Tyler Glass now 8 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts. He's now 4-1 to start the season. San Francisco's 11-13, San Diego's 13-12, and Colorado at the bottom at 5-18. Kyle Freeland is going to be out a month to 6 weeks because of a strained left elbow. He says the pitch clock's a factor. He said there's a lot of talk about pitch clock and sticky stuff and how it's all correlating to this. I'm a firm believer there's something that correlates with the pitch clock and pitchers. We're exerting our bodies at 100% every 15 to 18 seconds. You do that, it's tough. You do that in Colorado, it's even tougher. Come on, man. Seriously?
Yeah,
so throwing a pitch every 18 seconds as opposed to throwing a pitch every 21 seconds, that's the reason why our arms are screwed up?
No, he means it's throwing one every 18 seconds instead of every, 45 seconds.
Okay, well, we don't need that.
Yeah. Nobody wants to see that.
No. So I just think it's an excuse at this point. The problem is we're trying to put so much spin on balls that we are ruining our elbows.
Yep.
Although, like, I brought that up with Strider earlier when he had the injury, and it turns out it wasn't related to that at all. Like once they actually did all the MRI and all that, like it wasn't throwing a curveball that screwed up his elbow. It was the surgery he had 5 years ago that screwed up his elbow. So who knows?
Yeah. Also, this is good news. Colorado's being investigated by the FAA.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. By the Federal Aviation Administration and United Airlines after a video surfaced of an unauthorized person sitting in the cockpit during a recent team charter.
It was one of the coaches.
Yes, manager Bud Black said hitting coach Hensley Mullins apologized to the organization for sitting in the pilot's seat.
Bam Mullins. Why they like? I don't understand. Is he like a pilot, an amateur pilot or something? Like why would he want to?
Maybe it was his birthday and he wanted some wings. I don't
maybe
know.
they thought he was 12 years old. Like,
I mean, did the rest of did the players on the actual plane know that this was happening? Because I'd be freaking my ass off.
He like tweeted it out.
Yeah. I mean, if the plane's on autopilot, really, like, what's he gonna do?
Lang, I don't care. I don't care, man. It's like you might as well have one of those. In the airplane, the movie where the inflatable.
It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yeah.
You might as well have one of them, man. I don't want any part of that, man.
Yeah.
I'm already spooked. I'm already spooked going on a plane.
I think the other pilot was in the other seat, for what it's worth.
Well, I hope so. Yeah. I hope so, Lang.
Chris Bryant was sitting in the other seat. Yeah, they were just taking
he said,
over
do you like gladiator movies?
And then Arizona, they're 11-13. Merrill Kelly, a standout performer during the postseason last year, scratched from his start against the Giants yesterday with an injury to his pitching shoulder. He's going to have an MRI in Phoenix and said he has a strain of the teres major, if you know what that is. No.
All right.
American League East, the New York Yankees are at the top at 15-8. They lost 2 of 3 at Toronto, but then it was their first series loss of the season. Then they won 2 of 3 against Tampa. Juan Soto hit his 5th home run of the season. He has reached base in 20 of 22 games. How about that? Nestor Cortez. Yeah, like Ted Williams. Nestor Cortez, 7 scoreless innings, 9 strikeouts, and a no decision against Tampa. And then they were shut out yesterday by the A's 2-0. Fourth time, while they've been really good and they're 15-8, they were shut out for the 4th time yesterday against Oakland. And Brett Boone was ejected by Hunter Wendelstedt in this game. And it's an amazing story. Brett Boone got on the umpires on a checked swing. He got on the umpire at first base for what he thought was a strike, and it ended up being a hit by pitch. So he was upset about that. And then all of a sudden, a couple seconds later, a fan behind Brett Boone in the stands yelled at Wendelstedt, and Hunter Wendelstedt looks over and throws Boone out of the game. And Boone starts pointing at the fan and saying, "No, that was a fan yelling." And Wendelstedt said, Wendelstedt's comments after the game just tell you what pricks umpires are in baseball.
That's what made it all worse, was what he said after the game.
He basically said he's in charge of the team. It came from the dugout. He had to go. And then he went on to say, there's going to be this story about a fan yelling, but I've never thrown an umpire or a player out of a game because something of what a fan said. Basically backing himself and saying that didn't happen. When on the replay and on the video, you can clearly see that that's what happened, that the fan yelled and Wendelstedt looked over and threw Boone out of the game. It was absurd.
The one thing I thought of, that the only like plausible thing for Wendelstedt, if he's trying to make the case, is that maybe that fan yelled something too, but maybe because he said it came from the other end of the dugout, like maybe someone on the other end of the dugout yelled something at the same time. I don't know. I mean, I could see like some dude on the other end of the dugout saying like, you know, bend over and use your good eye or whatever to Wendelstedt. But I'm not like, it's so clear. That video is so damning of like the umpire. You can see the umpire Boone and that fan all at the same time, and the fan's mouth is open, and he turns and points right at Boone and is like, "You're out of here." And Boone clearly is like, "No." Like, and 3 or 4 of the coaches all start pointing up in the thing. They like, he wasn't even looking at the guy. So the only excuse I could come up with is that maybe somebody at the end of the dugout yelled something, but I don't know. I mean, it looks pretty clear.
Is the MLB going to look into this? Are they going to like issue an apology? Like, because that's not something you should be doing, man. Like, that's just not. I mean, I'm not trying to get into morality thing. I'm just trying to get into like, you know, just common sense, man. Like, if it's on video,
does Major League Baseball do that? Do they
there's
ever?
There's no
words
last
from their umpires.
Report.
Yeah, there's no last 2-minute report. There's nothing that ever says, "Oh, we apologize. We were wrong on this."
Because that's just ridiculous, man. You could.
I mean, the umpire did talk to the media, I guess, after the game, because we got all those comments from him.
But he said the same. He's backing himself into a corner. You keep saying the same thing.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, but Boone ejected from the game in the first inning after 5 pitches were thrown. Aaron Judge, by the way, hitting a .174 with just 3 home runs on the season, so he is off to a rough start. The Baltimore Orioles went 6-1 this week. They're now 15-7. They're right there behind the Yankees. Swept 3 against Minnesota, won 2 of 3 at Kansas City, and then they won last night at Los Angeles against the Angels. Colton Cowser with 6 home runs now on the season. Gunnar Henderson has hit 6 home runs on the season, and Corbin Burns is off to a 3-0 start with the Baltimore Orioles. Boston's Tyler O'Neill, former Cardinal, on the injured list. 7 home runs, and there he goes. Off
right after we talked about how muscular he was.
Yeah, and how great.
That might be the issue.
Tanner Houck, 3-hit complete game shutout against Cleveland. He's 3-1 now on the season, and he's off to a great start and pitching really well. Toronto 13-10, Tampa in the cellar at 12-12. Look who's got the best record in baseball, the Cleveland Guardians at 16-6 after a 6-1 week. They won 3 of 4 at Boston. They swept 3 against Oakland. 4 straight wins, the best record in the American League, best start since 1999. They're plus 52 in run differential, 4th highest in franchise history through 22 games in a season. only behind 1921, 1948, and 1959. So Guardians off to a great start. Still think of him as kind of boring.
Yeah, they're very
Yeah.
unsexy. Very unsexy.
But they're off to a great start. They're getting great pitching, and they get kind of timely. I mean, when the Naylor brothers are running around doing stuff, it's I don't know, I think kind of boring.
Yeah.
The Guardians. I think that whole division's rather boring, except for the Chicago White Sox, because that's fun. White Sox are 3-19 on the season.
Yeah, they're starting to wear paper bags on their heads now, Fish. It's getting bad.
They have
The
a team.
the players are the fans.
The fans.
They have a team batting average of 190.
Who's
A team batting average of 190. That's last.
Who's the best hitter on that team?
Luis Robert, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really gonna look it up.
And he's probably like hitting like 250 or something.
Well,
like
he's
that.
on the injured list. So,
Oh,
so they got that.
Paul DeYoung,
Paul DeYoung,
3 home runs,
Jeez.
batting 234.
Ooh,
3 of their 10 home runs, by the way. 10 home runs, also last in the league. They're scoring 2 runs a game. That's last in the league. Their on-base percentage is last in the league. Slugging percentage is last in the league. They are last in the league at 3-19. Pretty brutal.
Reinsdorf.
Yeah. Kansas City's 13-10. They won 2 of 3 at the White Sox. Seth Lugo, 7 scoreless innings to go to 3-0. He did lose a game against Baltimore to go to 3-1 on the season. Salvador Perez has 6 home runs on the year. He just keeps chugging along. Pretty amazing. Kansas City had won 9 straight at home. Minnesota 8-13. Detroit's 13-10. And then the American League West, the top team is Texas at 12-11. They won 3 of 4 at Detroit, lost 2 of 3 at Atlanta. Michael Lorenzen, a couple of good performances in the week to go to 2-0 to start the season. Jack Leiter got his debut. Al Leiter's son got his debut for Texas, and he was rocked. 3 2/3 innings, 7 earned runs, and they let him out there to suffer. It was tough to see a guy in his major league debut be
welcome
left
to the
out
league,
to
son.
suffer. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Man, it was tough to see. And the Angels at 9-14. Mike Trout, couple of home runs at Tampa to give him 8 on the season. Oh, and Anthony Rendon's on the injured list. Go figure.
Are we going to have a Trout update in terms of like when he's going to ask out or if they're going to try to trade him? Because I
think that fool likes being there, man.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna ask out. I mean, if he hasn't asked out by now,
no kidding.
Yeah. This is like Kevin Garnett in Minnesota. Like maybe it's gonna happen eventually, but like it's been years now.
Yeah, but at least Minnesota was going to the playoffs. They flame out the first round, but they're not even doing that. They're just awful.
No, he's not going to the playoffs ever. And it's not going to happen this year either. And Rendon, his running mate, on the injured list with the worst contract maybe in baseball history.
That's saying a lot, Fish. Come on. A bit hyperbolic, just a little bit.
No, I think you'd be hard pressed to find one that's worse. Lang, look that up. Look up Rendon's contract.
All right.
You're faster than I am doing this.
Cause I don't know, man. Like, I gotta think about that one because
there's 7-year deal worth 7-year, $245 million contract.
It's pretty high.
And he don't play.
Guaranteed. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing for a guy who
this year he's making $38 million.
Wow. Good for him. Good for Anthony Rendon. The Houston Astros are 7-16, another bad week, 1-5. And Christian Javier is on the injured list with a neck injury. Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers, Jose Urquidy, and all started the season on the injured list. Framber Valdez has been out since April with elbow inflammation. Justin Verlander just returned to action, and now Javier on the injured list as well with a neck injury. So not good for the Houston Astros, and it looks like it's not getting better either. The Oakland A's are 9-14. They drew 3,296 against the Cardinals, the lowest attendance of the year. 3,200 came to the game.
Not 32,000.
No, 3,200.
3,200.
Yeah. Pretty
Jeez,
amazing.
That's a bar mitzvah.
Although I watched the end of I watched the Yankees game yesterday after the Aaron Boone situation, and the A's won. But what was fun about it was at the end they brought in this closer. Have you guys seen their closer?
No.
His name's Mason Miller. He's 6'5", like 240, and he throws 102, 103, 104 miles an hour.
Jeez.
And he came in and was putting gas past Volpe and Judge and all these guys. Like, ended up striking out the side, I think. But he is incredible. And I started reading about him because I was so curious who he is. And they said that when he was in college, he was like real skinny, and threw it in like the 80s. And then they found out he was diabetic, and they got him treated and got him on the right medical plan, and he's been able to put on weight. And now it says his fastball average is 100.6 miles per hour. And he said the fastest he's thrown it in a game was 103.7. But he was, and someone was like, well, don't you just round it up? And he's like, no, once you get over 100, you can't round anymore. You have to go with the point, whatever. So I don't know. At least that's fun to watch on the A's. If you got that guy coming out of the bullpen, maybe he's going to be the Cubs closer by the end of the season.
I was about to say somebody's going to like knock on their door, like, look, let's make a deal.
Well, if he's the A's closer, you might not see him that often.
True.
So you have to look at the.
But you know how the A's are. They send them a couple prospects, take some money off their books. You can be able to get that guy.
Yeah, no doubt. Our favorite players this week, Shohei Ohtani hit safely in 15 of 16 games, including the last 7, and he broke Hideki Matsui's major league record for homers by a Japanese-born player. 176 of his 6+ seasons in the majors with the Angels and Dodgers. That eclipsed a record by Matsui, the former Yankee slugger who played 10 years in North America. So that was just a matter of time for Shohei, but he's hitting very well. Julio Rodriguez, who was off to a horrible start, he's starting to come back now. Hit safely in 6 straight games. This week, he went 13 of 28, almost hitting 500 with a couple of doubles, brought his average all the way up to 256. However, he does not have a home run yet this season. He said, I feel like people get so caught up with what's happening right now, and they just focus right here when there's a whole big picture that is developing. I will never stress so much when it's so early in the year. You're always going to try and be good at everything, but if things don't play out, you have so much time that you can continue to work on things, continue to put the right work in. He's coming around, so I think Julio's on the right path, so we'll be all right with him. Ellie De La Cruz, 6 of 16 on the week, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 7 walks, 4 stolen bases, third youngest with a home run and 3 stolen bases in a game since 1901. How about that?
Wow.
And O'Neal Cruz hit two hits this week. He's not. We added him to the list, and he's not doing very well. I think others that could be added. Bobby Witt Jr. is one that we might be able to add to the list. He is he is a baseball player. He is he's really good and a lot of fun to watch. The Royals team's fun to watch, and he is a star.
How about this closer for the A's?
Our closer for the A's. What's his name?
Mason Miller.
All right, I'm writing him down. Mason Miller.
He's got to be in some more games though, Lane. I want to see him. So the samples are not there for me yet.
We just don't watch it. But he's thrown 40 something innings. Not this season, but like in his career. Let's see. He started 6 games for the A's 2 years ago.
Okay.
Huh.
This season, he's 5 for 5 on save opportunities with 20 strikeouts and 10 innings pitched.
Wow.
Yeah. He struck out Volpe and Soto with 103-mile-an-hour fastballs, and then struck out Judge at 102.
Well, striking out Soto is easy. He's looking for a walk.
Yeah.
Although he's been a lot more aggressive though.
He's been amazing for the Yankees so far.
He's been a lot more aggressive. There's been times where I've watched some of the games because I'm in New York, where I thought he was going to take a walk, and he's trying to hit the ball.
Yeah. Well, they need him to, because again, I'm not paying you $40 million to get a walk. I'm paying you $40 million to drive somebody in, and
he's doing it.
He's doing it right now for sure. He's setting up for a huge payday this offseason. On deck this week, the Atlanta Braves, they got 3 with Miami. And then 3 with the Guardians, 2 best teams in baseball.
How about that?
That'll be fun. Yeah. So we can watch the Guardians this weekend. The Cubbies, you got 3 with Houston. They're terrible, Murph.
Yeah, I like that. But then
3 at
after that, I
Boston.
think, that's Boston's always shaky. Is it Boston at home or?
It's at Boston.
Oh, well, it's tough when you're playing them at home.
Get 2 out of 3 against Houston, win 1 out of 3 against Boston, take a 500 week, and let's move on.
Trying to sweep Houston.
Okay.
We need to sweep Houston. We need to rectify our bullpen, figure out what's going on with that.
Yeah. Cardinals got Arizona for 3, and then they go to the Mets for 3. I here's what I want from the Cardinals: to win a final game of a series, which they have not done yet this year. That's it. Just win a final game of a series. I'll take. And now that you won the first one against Arizona, you got to get 2 out of 3 against them, and then go to the Mets and see if you can salvage a game out of 3.
What I was about to ask you, how do you think you're going to do against the Mets? Because they've been kind of
they've been on fire. Yeah, they've been really good. Try to get at least 1 of those 3. I mean, and maybe the last game of the series for the first time this season. That'd be nice. Milwaukee's at Pittsburgh for 4 to start this week. Pittsburgh won the first one. Toronto's at Kansas City for 4. Boston's at Cleveland for 3, and Seattle at Texas for 3. And then this weekend, some big series. Kansas City visits Detroit for 3 games. The Dodgers are at Toronto for 3 games. Man, this wind is crazy. Dude. And then the Yankees at Milwaukee for 3 this weekend as well. That'll be a good one. First place Yankees and the first place Brewers for 3 games in Milwaukee this weekend. So that's your schedule on tap for Major League Baseball this weekend. And there you have it. That's what's going on in the big leagues this week and going to next week. You like my Expos hat?
I like it, man. I dig it.
I thought it was a Cubs hat from behind, like the blue and the red.
No, I can't wear a Cubs hat.
You got the OG. You got the OG joint on. I like that.
Yeah, this is old school right here. Yeah, my Expos.
It took me years before I realized that was an M.
Yeah,
I thought it was just some sort of random when I was a little kid. That and the Brewers hat. I didn't realize it was a glove.
And an M and a B at the same time. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for the show this week. We appreciate you listening and talking a little baseball with you as we look back each week at the week gone by and the week ahead in Major League Baseball. For Keith Murphy, for Lang Whitaker, I'm Rob Fisher. Thanks for joining us here on Infield Fly. We'll do it again next week here on Grind City Media.